Back again. So yesterday I recorded an episode talking about Alien Earth, episode 4, and unfortunately something went wrong with the audio, so I lost the episode. I mean, I have the video, it's just me talking with nothing coming out, so if you want me to post that and you can assume what I'm saying, go for it. Let me know in the comments and I'll do that. Otherwise, I'm going to do a quick review of the episode because I feel like I can't capture lightning in the bottle twice. If you're any type of person that does this or have ever been on stage or whatever, it's tough to do something twice in a row the same way. So I'm just going to ride with it. I'm going to give my opinions and we're just going to call it a day and hopefully do better next time. Anyway, this is Alex with Sandro Says. Please leave a like, a subscribe, and be ready to check out more Alien videos coming up. Alright, so coming out of episode 3, we had some very interesting questions, things that were burning in my mind the most. The top 4 questions that were burning for me. What was Morrow planning to do with the alien? He had already asked Arush to take one for him, or at least he had, I believe at this point he had, he had expressed to Yutani that he was going to take one, or he was going to do something with the aliens. He wanted them. What was it for? Was something in his programming still telling him to get them? Did he want them for nefarious purposes? Did he want them to show the world what his crew went through? What was the purpose of that? Second, what's the significance of Wendy collapsing so much in the third episode? What are they going to do with her understanding the frequency of the aliens, and how is that going to play into the show? It wasn't such a big deal. They mentioned it in multiple episodes now, and showed it to a very big extent in the end of episode 3. So we have to find out what that's all about. Next, what is Kirsch going to keep, or how is Kirsch going to keep exemplifying his free will and his, maybe not free will, but his indifference towards Boy Cavalier's plans, and more about what Kirsch actually wants to do? That I think will be an interesting, thing to look at as we get into the season more. And what's up with Hermit's lung? Typically, what we've seen in an alien gestation is that the human needs to take in a lot of calories to supply the alien with growth. Here, it was just given a lung. Now we see maybe they were feeding it blood or something, or keeping the lung alive with blood and oxygen. But I don't know what else was going on there. So just interesting to see what's going on with the lung alien. I still wasn't sure if they were going to put it back into Hermit or not. If you've seen the episode, spoilers, they don't. So anyway, let's get into the episode itself. Check us out after the intro. If I have an intro, I'm working on it. If I don't, then this will be the intro here. Alien Earth, episode 4, intro. Boom, boom. Okay, so where was I at? It's cool that she can now... Okay, so we deal with Wendy. I'm not going to go through this scene by scene. That's what I did yesterday. I'm going to talk about the characters and what happens to them in the episode. Wendy herself, she wakes up. They're tuning her ears back in. They're making sure she can hear humans. And then the top priority on everyone's list, and by everyone I mean Boy Cavalier's list, is... let's see what she can hear from the aliens, and maybe if she can figure out what they're saying. She thinks they chose her. It seems more like a malfunction. I can't imagine the aliens chose her. They've never chosen a synth like that before. However, at the end of the episode, we do see something that might lead to that theory. So anyway, they decide that they can use her to listen to the aliens. They try to see what they're saying. She says that the alien was in pain when they were doing surgery on it. It was screaming. So that's interesting. Boy Cavalier is definitely interested in all the ways he can exploit, and he's almost showing more angst and more pressure on himself, more obsession at this point, because he probably realizes that Yutani is not far from getting the 5 to intervene, or intervening themselves to get their specimens back. So he's feeling the heat. He wants to figure out what he can do with these items, and quickly. So he doesn't care about following protocols or anything like that. The fact that he keeps ignoring his original project of eternal life and putting people's consciousness into androids, that seems to have gone on the back burner. I have a feeling that's going to be part of his downfall, that he gets so singularly focused on the xenomorphs. Otherwise, we see Boy Cavalier just being an excellent manipulator in this episode. Wendy has the question of if her brother is going to leave or stay. Now, he has already cut a deal to stay and keep working with her, because that's the only way that Hermit's going to keep in contact with Wendy. Otherwise, he gets cut off. But she doesn't know that, so Boy Cavalier basically manipulates her into being like, well, if you guys do what we want, he can stay all, so she's all on board with figuring out the aliens at this point, because to her, that's what's going to keep her brother alive. As far as the aliens and her brother are concerned, our Bren Slightly, or Arush as we find out, he is still being talked to by Morrow. He has to head off into the forest kind of like a Jedi to talk to Morrow because he wants to do it away from everyone else. Problem is, we already established in the previous episode that Kirsch and everyone else can see what they see. They're recording everything they see and do at all times. So it doesn't matter how far out into the forest he goes, he's still being recorded and seen, which is confirmed later in the episode. So he's talking to Morrow, and Morrow is still seemingly trying to manipulate him, but in a friendly way. He knows he's a child he's dealing with, so he's giving that false sense of, or do you want to be a hero? Because I'm a hero. He's playing towards some of those sensibilities. And the problem is then, Slightly, as he's known, gives up his real name and his real last name to Morrow. Before Morrow says, you have to go and get an egg, bring it out of the lab, give it to me. That's what I want. I want an egg. And then you'll be done. We'll be all set. We'll be friends. We're all good. You stole them from me, so you're basically just doing a favor for a friend by giving it back. So I think that was pretty cool. Arush, you see the actor who plays Slightly Arush. I'm going to call him Slightly. It's a little easier, just because we've been calling him that for all the episodes so far. The actor who plays him, it's amazing how you've seen the different child actors and how they're portraying the maturity or the adapting to their synth bodies. So it's pretty awesome to see. He's definitely becoming a more mature person, although he's scared of what's going on. So we see Arush at the lab. Slightly, I don't know, I'm going to keep going back and forth. He is too scared to go in. He meets one of the other synths, Isaac. Isaac is basically Kirsch's right-hand man now. It's the synth that's been working in the lab the whole time. Isaac, as opposed to the other ones, which we'll talk to later, has taken to being a synth greatly. He learned how to basically take SD cards, plug them into his neck, and he learns things. So he's taking to it and becoming like Kirsch Jr. as far as an assistant in the lab and all that stuff. So that's pretty cool. Slightly got scared away, went immediately back to talk to Morrow and said, I can't do this for you, you need to find someone else. But because Slightly was such a child earlier, he gave up his name to a stranger, and now Morrow is at his house. I guess they all live on the same little island there, even though you figure these people would be from around the world. But anyway, he now has his mom, and he's threatening Slightly over the phone or over the telelink, whatever it is. It's forcing the kid to do something. And now he's saying, well, you don't have to bring me an egg. Just bring a human to the eggs. That will implant them. Then you can bring the human to me. Which is kind of a risky proposition. I mean, not like the egg wasn't a risky proposition, but we've seen in these shows and movies and media that the egg can hatch, or the gestating alien can hatch in any time from like 1 hour to 2 days after. So it's a real wide window Morrow's dealing with. I don't know if he plans on freezing the person, putting them in that like goo sack he put the alien in the first one. I don't know. So Slightly now is really on board with doing this because he's forced to, but he has to find a human to do it with. They go to the fact that now Joe, Hermit, because he's being allowed to stay, he's hanging out with the synths. They're asking him questions. He's explaining the world to them because they're still kind of kids and they're locked away on this island, so they don't even know what's really going on. Slightly shows up and is immediately like, who is that? Why is he allowed to be here? Why is your family allowed to be here and mine's not? Which strikes a nerve because his family's being threatened at that moment. So Slightly immediately takes a dislike towards Joe. There's a lot of tension there. And you can see that Slightly basically decides at that point, okay, this is the person I'm going to use for the alien host. And sure enough, in the next scene, we see Joe in his room at night, seemingly getting ready for bed, and Slightly is there, staring at him through the window like Michael Myers, which is pretty crazy. So we'll see what that happens. Nothing ended up or there was no resolution to that part of the episode. The only other thing I want to talk about, like I said, the kids are all adapting in different ways. It seems that Smee is still pretty childish, but, starting to get a little maturity, perhaps. He hasn't had much of an arc, so he's left to the side. Slightly has had a lot of maturity. Curly still seems to yearn to be like Wendy and almost will, tell Boy Cavalier things he wants to hear, which is something a teenager or child would do. So, and then Isaac, like I said, he's really growing up, so far at least. The one that's a problem is Nibs. Nibs, who we saw last episode, was already starting to freak out. She was touching her eye. It seemed like she was having some disconnect between her being human and then also in a synth body. Now in this episode, she's wandering around saying that she's pregnant. She's alluding it to Jesus Christ in the Bible and the Immaculate Conception and all that stuff. So Lady Sylvia, or Dame Sylvia, excuse me, who already was having an argument with Arthur at this point, her husband apparently, and they both work very closely on this project. Arthur seems to have a heart and understand that they're messing with these people's minds, whether they're humans or not. They're doing something that's not right. Dame Sylvia, even though she keeps getting told off by Boy Cavalier, she seems totally on board with it. However, they go back to the office with just the Dame and Nibs. Nibs starts explaining how she doesn't Nibs is basically playing dumb to the fact that she's an android. She doesn't like being called fake or anything like that. She doesn't want to be shown any diagrams of what her body is made of. Dame Sylvia tries to show her one, and she kicks it out of her hand in a super violent way. And then 2 seconds later, she says the wrong thing, and Nibs leaps across the couch and grabs her and looks like she's gonna snap her neck or something. So Nibs is playing that very well. The actress, I mean, otherwise the character's terrifying and we don't know what's going to happen there. But she's gone off the reservation 100%. Dame Sylvia, she gets some guards in a stealth way, says take her back to her room, and she says take her back and lock her up. When we don't see her for the rest of the episode. So something is clearly building here. There's a lot of things that are being put away, and this is the 4th episode right before. There's 8 total, so it feels like we are on the precipice of a huge jump, like something's about to happen and a bunch of stuff's going to fall apart at once. Last but not least, we have Wendy in the lab in the episode, and she is witnessing the birth of the alien coming out of her brother's lung. I don't know if she realizes that's her brother's lung or not. That would be strange. But the alien comes out, immediately bursts out of its containment, and then starts basically imprinting on Wendy, which was fascinating. I don't know what that was all about. So we'll see where that goes. She seemed fascinated by it and not scared by it, and the alien was just as interested in her, which maybe she is right. Maybe the aliens do have something special about her that they like. I don't know. So we'll see where that goes. Kirsch was watching all of this and seemed just fascinated. So as far as where this is going, like I said, we have 4 episodes left, so clearly things are going to start flying. We've barely seen any aliens in this. Oh, speaking of aliens, today's alien, because the xenomorph has taken a back seat. Sorry, my dog just dropped something in the background. Because the xenomorph has taken a back seat, Eye Guy, the little eye octopus, has taken more of a main center stage appearance. Basically, Eye Guy, they had him impregnate or take over the eye of a lamb, and now the lamb is the scariest thing in the show. It just sits there staring at you. So I don't know what to make of that. I don't know what Eye Guy is thinking. Eye Guy in its scene was staring at both the synths, and then it turned around and looked at Boy Cavalier and took a real interest in him. And it almost seems like it could tell that Boy Cavalier was the one in control or the one with power. So that would be interesting. But that thing alone is the scariest thing in the series. And it's interesting that of the aliens introduced in the first episode, the double episode, we had the plant alien on the ceiling. We haven't seen that since. We had the blood-sucking aliens who took out the Marines. We haven't seen those since, but we've seen Eye Guy and obviously the xenomorph since then. So that's it's an interesting which ones they went with. Maybe we'll see the other ones later on, maybe not. But Eye Guy is clearly the star so far. From what I understand, next episode, at least the preview from what people are saying online, I don't do spoilers or anything like that, but it's going to be the story of the Maginot, or at least more of the story of the Maginot. That's the ship that we saw in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the first episode that crashed and started the whole story. So hopefully we'll get a little more of the coloring in of what happened to them. Ziggy, come here. So hopefully we'll get more of what's happening with them. Otherwise, we'll see what's going on Earth. Is Slightly going to be able to get Joe to be impregnated? Is Wendy going to continue being BFF with the alien? Who knows? So we have a lot of interesting questions and not a lot of answers right now. I have to get him a new toy. I have a bunch of stuffed toys back there for him. Stuffed toys back there for him for during the show, and he picked the one and brought it up with him, and I didn't see it. He brought up these rings that he really likes, and they're loud. And that's how he gets me. But we're still pals. I'll take him on a nice walk after this. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the discussion. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content and the material and the discussion. I'll be back on with Rufus tomorrow night. I'm also going to have a surprise episode coming out later today for any of you football fans. So anyway, let's see where this goes. I'll see you next time.